Oh, wow. We are live. That's great. Um, hey, everybody. All right, so here's what we're going to do. My show is going to be a interview show most episodes, but on Fridays, I'm just going to talk because apparently there are two kinds of people. They're the people who don't know who I am and only want to watch if, in fact, somebody else is on the show that they know. And then the other kind of person is the person who does know me. And what's weird about this person is that they will occasionally enjoy watching me interview somebody else, which I really enjoy talking. I enjoy doing the interviews. But every single person who does know who I am asks me to just do solo episodes. And I tell them the same thing every time. No one knows who I am, and therefore, no one's going to watch. No one's going to care about these episodes. So that's my consternation with this because I enjoy talking. I enjoy talking about anything. This is an anything everything show, which means that I want you guys to watch. I want you guys to be able to feel comfortable commenting. I mean, I would love to go through a live chat with you guys. Anybody who wants to watch this or who wants to talk, yeah, please by all means hop on the chat. Let's do this thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people want to just listen to me say stuff, which is fun. I love that. I want to say stuff. It's one of my favorite things to do is to say stuff. But you know, that's my consternation here. I'm trying to build a brand, and I'm trying. It's not going so hot so far. And look, it's early. It's both literally and figuratively. It's early. We haven't been doing the show very long, and also it's 7:30 in the morning. So I'm hoping eventually people will start to watch this. It would help if I shared all this stuff to Facebook and Twitter, wouldn't it? Let me just do that really quickly. This is one of my issues is I love doing the show. I love just talking in general, but I don't want to talk to no one because then I'm just a crazy person. So, which might be true anyways. But I want people to watch the show. That's my only thing is that I hope at some point if you build it, they will come, right? If I build the show and we do the show, and it's like, I want the show to be kind of low budget. I don't want a whole lot of distractions away from the conversation. But that's it. So please share the show. That's it. Please share it. Please get like I can't do all of the promoting. I just can't do it. It's not in me. It's not in me to promote myself as much as is seems to be necessary. I think that my entire career that I have not been able to promote myself well. I'm bad at it. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at promoting myself. And part of it is the fact that I don't feel like people should promote themselves. And that's kind of based off of the way I was raised. My father said this, and I think this is one of the places where I maybe disagree with my father the most. But it doesn't mean I don't have those tendencies. My father always made a huge deal out of the fact that he had never asked for a raise. He's never asked for a raise. He's never complimented himself. He's never said anything positive about his abilities to anyone else. It was just understood that he was good. And that's why he got his rewards. That's why he got his raises. That's why he got his promotions. That's why he became a business owner. All of those things just based off of action. And so I think when you're raised in an environment like that, if you throw somebody into an environment like social media, which is all about self centeredness, right? It's all about me, 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 me. And people thought at the beginning that social media was going to be about we. And it's not. It's not. I'm sure that there are a lot of opportunities to unite people on the internet. That's absolutely it's true, but I think the vast majority of social media is all about the me. It's about the self gratification of having people like what you say. It's about the self gratification of seeing people respond to you. It is very gratifying to go through your Twitter feed. It is very gratifying to go through your Facebook feed. It's fun to do these things. It's fun to feel as though you have a group of people who follow you because of who you are, because of the things that you put into the universe. That's a really powerful feeling. And a lot of people are like, well, what are you complaining about? Yeah, like, you got the blue check mark. You've been in media, and I have. I don't like the fact that I have been in media because I really have never fit the mold of the media. Um, the media just really is just trying to get you to follow them. I mean, that's it. That's the game. And that's why the media is full of people who are exhibitionists, people who like to perform, people who are attention seekers. And I would say everyone has a tendency to be an attention seeker, but really, I think that a lot of the insincerity that I've had in the past has been a byproduct of my uncomfortableness with my need. And this is a need. I have a need to tell people what I think. Um, I don't have a need to be famous or popular. I don't have a need to, to be a big face on a billboard. I think at one point I did. I think at one point I really, really wanted that. I wanted my name in big lights. But that's not really why I do this. That's not really why I'm doing the show. If I was really just committed to being a famous person, I just want to be famous. I don't care. There are other easier ways to do it than talking into a camera to no one. There are easier ways to do it. So this is partially, this is my consternation. This is my frustration, is that I just want to talk. But I want to be able to talk to people, and I want people who really want this in particular. They want me to talk and just talk about stuff. And this is my reservation in doing it. No one's going to watch. No one's going to watch to my standard, because I already have that standard of, well, if I'm making content and everybody says it's good, and everybody wants to, build me up and make me feel confident about myself, which I feel good. I feel good about myself. I just know that this right here, I want to do it. I really do, but I'm not going to do it because at the end of the day, I cannot just I can't just do it for no one, thinking that it's not going to be a success. I want everything that I do to be a success. I want people, I want to be a part, I want to build a community around the idea that you can talk about whatever the fuck you want to talk about. And you can say whatever you want to say. So let's do it. I really want to do this. But I need your help. This is a plea to you. Please, if you know what I'm saying and you understand, look, yeah, I would love a community around the idea of talking about anything. That sounds like fun. And it's been my philosophy my entire career. Go ask any single person who follows me on Twitter, do I respond to them? Am I responsive? Am I somebody who is interested in the topic and not the whatever you call it, the fame chasing that goes on social media? And they'll say, like, I'm a topic person and I have opinions on everything. Like today, Donald Trump was thanking all of his keyboard warriors, which is a very strange phrase to me because it puts the context of war and conflict and all of this into social media, which is a new thing, and it's a strange thing, and we have to wonder whether or not it's a healthy thing. Because even though the battle is going on, that public discourse is happening right now, it's not a healthy public discourse. And it's definitely not one that the results of which are easily measurable. So far, keyboard warriors. Like, what does that mean, right? What was Donald Trump talking about when he said keyboard warriors? Well, the keyboard warriors are the Twitter trolls, the people who get after the anti-MAGA people, and the same thing over there on the other side. It's like you've got keyboard warriors, and then the other side are also keyboard warriors, but they're the social justice people, right? And those are the two groups that seem to fight with each other the most, or ignore each other entirely and then just attack randos on the internet, which is really kind of what happens, if we're being totally frank. This idea that the election can be swayed by social media is somewhat accurate, but not in the sense that it's going to sway people's votes directly. I think when people talk about social media impacting elections, they think, oh, the discourse on social media is going to filter into the voting pool, albeit at a slow rate, but it will influence those people on there, because they'll see the discourse on social media and then they'll go out and it will influence how they act politically. But in reality, I don't think that that's how that works. I think what happens is that the media, which is obsessed in particular with Twitter, Facebook, that's okay. All right. So here's how it works. I should probably draw this out, but here's how it works. In media, I'm gonna give you guys a little media crash course here. So in media, here's how it works. If you are a somebody who's on camera, right? An influencer, somebody whose face is recognizable and associated with a news product. If you're an anchor, if you are a field reporter, pretty much everybody except for the producers. And the producers are on there, but they're too busy working to really get on social media a lot. So the people who are on camera, who have nothing to do really, if we're being totally honest, they're the least important part of the of the news process at this point. They're like, all right, we can't do robots yet. All right, well, we're just going to do people. Not smart people, but like people who are obsessed with fame, but that we can't really pay a whole lot. So, but are nice to look at. College kids, perfect. New grads, let's use those. So yeah, there's like a 10-year time span on that. You got about a decade to get into a really comfortable position in that industry. And if you don't do it in 10 years, I'm guessing one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get, or you're going to keep chasing it and you're going to be miserable, because you're going to realize that the dream that you were chasing, you got sold a bill of goods. That the idea that you can become a big anchor in a big city and then that's the big position is it's a fantasy. I mean, the people who have those positions are like in their 50s at this point, which means that they have plenty of time left before they die to hold on to that with a death grip, just an iron fist, right? They're going to hold on to those positions, and that's how they're going to be. But anyways, so those people, I get off on these tangents. So those people are on Twitter, and they love Twitter because Twitter is super responsive. You get comments immediately. There's a very easy back and forth with it. And the culture of Twitter is political debate. And whether or not you're talking about sports or jokes or politics, it's all political debate. All of it. It's all it's conflict, just constant consternation, just all the time. You say this, I disagree. You say this, I disagree. And it's so easy to do that because of the character limit. You can boil things down into a singular thought in most cases. I know people do threads occasionally, but for the most part, most of the back and forth is just singular tweets. And most of them, I would also say at this point, are one of two types. They're either serious or not serious. And I think the big disconnect is that no one really knows how to figure out which ones are which. Um, so what you have then is this really weird feedback loop of news, not caring about the news, and then the disagreement with the not caring about the news, the flippantness, right? The joking. Somebody makes an important tweet, right, or is newsworthy of some kind, very factual, right? The very first, almost to a tweet, the very first response or the very first wave of responses is that's stop taking yourself so seriously. This is stupid. You're wrong. Stupid. And like, I think that that's how most people want to respond to the media and the structure of society right now in general, because they are just tired. They're just done with having people tell them how to think. So that's kind of what's happened on Twitter. But those people are super obsessed with Twitter, and they're always throwing their shit out there, and they're always trying to break news, and they're always trying to grab attention, grab attention, grab attention, grab attention. That's Twitter. And so the people who are exhibitionists, the people who are on camera, and the people who are personalities or fancy themselves personalities, they're all on Twitter. And that's where they consume, and that's where they get their perception of the world in a lot of cases. And then you've got the people in the corporate section of media, the people who are in charge of like, if you've it's some weird name of a company that doesn't sound good, but it sounds like an evil corporation out of a movie, and you're like, I've never heard of that. That sounds made up. It sounds like an evil corporation that would be in a Bruce Willis movie in the '80s. What is this company? And so you're like, Sinclair. That's the name of this company. Tegna. That's the name of our company. What do you do? Well, we specialize in local TV affiliates. Yeah, but what do you do with them? Oh, we try to figure out how to maximize profits for our shareholders and manipulate the public to their whim. Um, that's what those people do. Those people are obsessed with Facebook because they don't understand social media, first of all. But they think that that's where the people are, and therefore that's where they should put most of their efforts, and therefore that's where all of their content should go. So if you've noticed recently that your local TV news affiliate is really big on Facebook, there's a reason for that. Because the people at the top have said that's where all the people are, that's where all the money is, and that's where we have to go. So that's where we're going to build all of this new infrastructure. And so those people really love Facebook. And so their perception of the world a lot of times is based off of what they see on Facebook. And what you see on Facebook is a combination of political debate that is serious, not serious. It is true, not true. And I don't know exactly why Facebook has been the primary culprit in this, but the spread of misinformation seems to go so fast. Like on Twitter, if something's bullshit, you're going to know it's bullshit within 5 minutes, and the entire community is going to, because they call everything bullshit. So I think the bullshit detector is kind of built into the platform. But on Facebook, everyone kind of assume like it's the place where your aunt and your grandma have conversations with each other. You know what I'm talking about. It's where the family is most important, right, on social media. Now, I say that it's not to bemoan anyone who loves their family and likes posting family pictures on Facebook. That's not what this is about. It's just that that's kind of a facade for what's really going on. We all love the family photos and the dog memes and the videos of people slipping in the middle of their yard and tearing their ACL. All of those things are on Facebook. And we love that stuff. But then there's also all of this just blatant misinformation. It's a totally different setup too, because instead of having a thread of comments or a thread of back and forths, it's singular post and then all the comments on that post. And then that's basically just how the back and forths all work. There is no way to singularly respond or to get into conversations outside of the comment section. So the thread and the way in which people consume content on that platform is very, very different. And it is a lot more visually based. There's a lot of visually based things on both Instagram and Facebook, which are tied together now, and they're trying to make it all visual. They're trying to make it all video, and that's. But there's what I think is interesting is that the Twitter sphere is where the hardcore news personalities, all of those people, that's where they spend the vast majority of their time because it's so immediate and it's so easily organized. But on Facebook, it's very disorganized, and people in general have kind of started to stay away from Facebook unless you are, well, how would I put this? An officer in the family unit, so to speak. If you are a grandma, an aunt, it's where families seem to have congregated and then have spread out from there. And what's weird about that is that it started off as a way to get away from your family. That's why it became that. I think when I was in high school and Facebook was just starting out, I remember thinking, okay, all right, well, I'm going to be on Facebook because that's where all my friends are, and that's where I want to go have fun with my friends. I want to chat with my friends on Facebook, and also find pictures of girls that are in my high school. That's the other thing that Facebook was for at that point. It was for creeping and for hanging out. It was for hanging out and creeping. Those are the two things. And it just changed the second that the moms got a hold of Facebook and they realized what was going on there. They all wanted to know what their teenage sons were doing and why it was wrong. And so it just got inundated with the family unit. The family swooped in. We got to fix this Facebook thing. Which, if you remember growing up in the early 2000s, it was kind of a residual effect of the 90s. And I still feel like at that point in time, we aren't where we are now. Where we are now in society is so totally different. I don't really look at the family unit the way that I used to. And I think a lot of people don't, mainly because of the way social media has affected it. But now we got all these memes and stuff that are making fun of Karens and aunts, and we got. It's just I feel like it definitely has impacted the family unit in a strange, bizarre way. Um, but the conversations on Facebook are usually different. You I would say they're more cordial at first. They're definitely more cordial when it comes to strangers. That's the place where people who know each other debate and end up hating each other. Twitter is not like that. Twitter is where strangers yell at you. Facebook is where your friends yell at you. It's just like, I feel like social media at this point has taken on this strange role of influencing the culture, but influencing decisions of important people is different. I don't necessarily think that or Twitter is going to affect the election in, just by, oh, here's a topic on Twitter, it's going to trickle down and it's going to affect the electorate. I think what it does is that the topics and the tenor of the topic on Twitter is going to influence the media personalities who are then going to say things that are geared towards what they have seen on Twitter. And then what happens is that the people who are in charge of these massive media networks and corporations and things, they take the content that is created based off of a premise of conversation on Twitter, and they take all that content and they post it to Facebook and YouTube and a bunch of other places. And of course, they post it to Twitter too. But the problem with that is that all of these other audiences have no frame of reference for what it is that you're saying or why you're saying it in that way. And the way in which we talk to one another is extremely important in communicating effective messages. The way in which we talk to one another is that's how we get things done. That's going to determine whether or not the chain of work, the chain of effectiveness continues. Because if you have a communication problem, if somebody does not understand what you're saying, all like right out of the gate, you're dead. Because if they don't understand what you're saying, and if they don't understand the context for what you're saying, they're going to be confused. But they're also going to remember that you're the person who's supposed to know what they're talking about, right? Because you're a local news person, or you're a local sports person, or you're a local radio guy, or whatever. But you carry some level of authority. And I think a lot of what's happened with the misinformation is that people are not very good at picking up on sarcasm. First and foremost, they're not good at it on Twitter, and they're even worse at it on Facebook. And so, unless you fit right into someone's very limited understanding of what content is supposed to look like on one of these platforms, you are setting yourself up to be an irritant. You're setting yourself up to be a problem for that person, even though you're not, even though you aren't. It's funny because our my wife and I have been doing a lot of work on our yard lately, and the people who owned the house before we did, they loved rocks. They just had rocks all over their yard, and which is a fairly common thing in Colorado because it's a drier climate. But we have a lot of rocks. Got a lot of river rocks all over the place. We've spent years, literally years, just digging rocks out of our yard. Um, and what's funny is that people will come and buy these rocks from us because they need the rocks for their yard, because they want rocks in there and they understand why they want rocks. And we think about it and we're like, well, yeah, but it doesn't really fit our yard. It's dirty. We need to get rid of these things. It makes it difficult to maintain the yard. So really, the context for rocks in our yard is really relative to who owns the house, right? It has nothing to do with the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of rocks in yards in drier climates. It has nothing to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with how important you think rocks are. The rock is irrelevant. The person and their understanding of rocks is relevant. And the same thing is true on social media. So when you're trying to have maybe a nuanced point, which is where I live in nuance, and I'm trying to wade my way through a landscape of political bullshit, and I'm just trying to keep my feet clean. That's really it. And I'm trying to figure out nuance, and I'm trying to do all these different things, and I'm trying to figure out how exactly. Basically, unless you know what your audience wants. So let's say Broncos fans. If I were to like create a uh, a, a really great money making personality, they would love the Broncos. They would never disagree with John Elway, but they would pick their moments in which they would criticize his very obvious mistakes with loving kindness, right? Any criticism you ever give a Broncos player, always done so in the tenor of loving kindness, right? That you would be a fan, you would want them to succeed, you would never lie, but always be positive. Which is those two things are hard to do sometimes in sports, especially with Denver. Um, but that's what you would be. You would be wholly positive all the time. You would never outright criticize bad decisions made by people who are in charge, but you would always give them your responses and your results, your take on the results of games in a very loving and kind way. You would support community in a very fundamental way. You would post a lot of pictures of human interest of, this player went over to this person's house because their kid had cancer and he felt like he wanted to make that person's day. So, and like you just post a lot of those stories. You would post a lot of that. You would be a cheerleader for the local sports teams. And basically, if you do those two things, and then you're somewhat let's say you don't even have to be knowledgeable, really. You just have to be articulate. If you can articulate your thoughts well, if you're coherent and maybe even gifted when it comes to speaking, if you just do that and you're comfortable doing that, you're going to become really popular and you're going to get what you want. You're going to get all the love and you're going to get all of the acceptance of all of the people who just want that one simple thing. They just want to feel good about their sports team and the place where they live. And that's it. And those are their wants in society. That's it. They don't want anything else. They just want to feel good about the place they live and they want to like their sports team. They want to hear good things about their sports team and they want to like the place where they live. That's it. Make them feel good about where they live and make them feel good about their team. And so you say to what end? To what end? My popularity. That's what it's going to be. To what end? To my popularity. And if you look at the people who are most successful in local sports talk or local sports, that's how they're popular. They're in the same place for forever. They've committed to living and dying in a place, basically. This is my life. This is who I am. This is where I am. My job is to be in Denver and to cover the Broncos and to make you feel good. And that's it. If you do those three things, if that's all you need, then you're good. But I think most people probably need more than that. Um, and I also certainly think too that it takes a toll on a person when they have to lie, or when they feel like they're being disingenuous about something, or when you feel like you can't be negative sometimes, or when you can't be honest sometimes, or when people are just like they're just stuck in their ways. And it took me a long time to realize this, but regardless of whether or not they win or lose the game, people still just want to hear good things about their sports team and they still just want to feel good about the place that they live. That's really your whole goal. And my misunderstanding, at least in my career, was I thought people wanted correctness. I thought people wanted to be right. I thought people wanted to be right as much as I wanted to be right. That they wanted to know what was going on, that they cared about what was going on, that they wanted to, in some way, shape, or form, figure out the problem and then be a part of the solution. That's what I thought was the goal. But that's not the goal. People don't want to solve problems. People don't want problems to exist. That's the difference. Some people, some people may want to solve problems, right? Some people are problem solvers. I'm a problem solver. I love like problems in solving problems in my career. I like solving problems in terms of my spirituality. I like solving all these. I love that stuff. I love solving problems. It's fun for me. But most people don't look at it that way. They don't look at it as problem solving, as though they can somehow figure out a better way. They just don't want there to be a problem. That's it. They just don't want there to be a problem at all. And it's like, okay, all right, well, you can do one of two things. You can feed into that and give them what they want and then be popular. But the outcomes of things then all of a sudden are irrelevant, right? The outcomes of things are pointless, useless. They don't mean anything. All they mean is whether or not you have to do mop up duty and figure out how to make everybody feel better after a loss, or you just get to party. Like those are the only two choices that you have. And that's not me. That's not how I operate. That's not who I am. That's not who I'm ever going to be. But there are a lot of people out there who are going to do that, and they do it in sports maybe more so than in any other thing. But what has happened in this country in particular is that politics have started to reflect sports, because sports is more important than politics. And I know, and I'm not saying that in terms of its direct impact on people's lives. You know, like we should think about it. I'm saying that in terms of people, what they care about. People care more about sports than politics. They just do. In aggregate, sports is more important to people because it's more important to their daily lives. And I'm sure that there's some politician out there who wants to say, it's like, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's like, okay, all right, fine. But you have to understand how many people live in America. You know, more than half the people who live here don't vote. It's like, so clearly you're only looking at half the country to begin with. So then on top of that, I mean, like, half the people just have opted out of that process, which kudos to them. And I'm thinking about joining them because of the just how fed up I am with the political process. But what's happened is that the people who want you to be interested in politics, or who feel like politics is essential, um, government is essential. Politics is not essential. Government is. Politics is not. Infrastructure is essential. The political process of figuring out funding for infrastructure, also very important. But it's that's not what's going on. We're not debating whether or not to fund a new highway or to do bridge repair nationwide. That's not what we fight about. We don't fight about that stuff. What do we fight about? We fight about whether or not um, Republicans are being hypocrites because they allow awful behavior, condone really awful behavior from the president of the United States because he's on their team, even though if anyone else on the planet does it who's not a Republican, they would abhor that person and call them out for it and ask for their resignation. And so, like, that hypocrisy, which, by the way, just flip around the words, and then you get the Republican view of it. But even then, Republicans are way more hypocritical than Democrats, and I know that that's not something that Republicans like to hear, but I've been alive long enough to know that that's true. It, you know, the last 4 years of social justice warriors shitting on you unfairly does not undo all of the bullshit that you put me and every other young person through for the first 25 years of my existence. There's no, like, you can't undo it. You already fucked up. So I remember that. And now I'm going to remember this fuck up from the Democrats too. I'm going to remember all of it. I'm not happy with any of you. All right. So just because I'm mad at you, don't start with the whataboutism. I'm mad at all of you. You all suck. The Democrats suck. The Republicans suck. Every single one of you are hypocrites. All of you. If you are a member of a party at this point, you're a hypocrite. Somebody who is not a member of, like, I'm perfect. I'm a member of the Democratic Party. I am a registered Democrat. And I'm telling you that, yeah, if I continued on as a Democrat this year, I would be a hypocrite. I would. Because I would be voting for things that I don't agree with. I would be voting for things just on the simple basis that I don't want to hear this argument about Donald Trump anymore. That's the only reason at this point that I would vote for Joe Biden, is just because I'm tired of Donald Trump. But in reality, I'm really more tired of the conversation around Donald Trump. I want people to stop talking about him. Just ignore him. Please ignore him. Block him on Twitter. Mute him. Whatever. I don't care. Just, like, stop paying attention to the nonsense, because that's the thing that's driving you crazy. It's not real stuff. It's, and look, as much as people may say, oh, they screwed up, it's Donald Trump's fault that the COVID-19 this whole thing's his fault. And, like, I understand where you're coming from. He's too stupid to know how to fuck up a response to COVID-19. He's too stupid to fuck it up. Like, here's the thing. This is all about the system at this point. Our system was unprepared. Now it makes it worse. It probably exacerbates the problem, the system being unprepared, that you've got a monkey with a machine gun in the White House. But that's, I just don't give him credit for thinking. Who gives that man credit for anything? Why? Why would you give him credit? I don't, look, I just think he's an idiot in the White House. That's it. He's dumb. He's not smart enough to hold that position. You got to be one of two things. You either have to be so clever that you can off the cuff make great analytical decisions because you just know the smart way to do that. Or you have to be an incredibly diligent, hard worker who also can focus. And if you are, and you can obviously be both of those things. Clinton was both of those things. Obama was both of those things. Reagan was a really hard worker. He was extremely focused. Bush was a puppeteer, but Dick Cheney was incredibly focused, incredibly hard worker, incredibly intelligent. And those things, basically, we all know Dick Cheney was running. Dick Cheney was the president. Like, if we're just being totally honest here, George W. Bush was not really the president. Dick Cheney was the president. George W. just had the right name. Dick Cheney was like, "I need your name," and then they they elected him twice. That's the other really frustrating thing too about and this is why I understand where Joe Rogan's coming from. Joe Rogan said that he's thinking about moving to Texas after the California COVID-19 lockdown oppression. We don't really, we don't deal with that in Colorado. Jared Polis, I think, has done a pretty good job. Generally speaking, I know some people were critical of him for opening the state back up really early, but so far, so good. We're going to have a second wave anyways. So, at this point, this is the other problem too, is like at this point, we're just kind of waiting around for, the bad stuff to happen, because we've come to this conclusion before, by the way, guys. This is not the first time the human race has done this, where we say, you know what? You know what the number one leading cause of death is? Life. Everything can kill you. Water can kill you. You drink too much water, you're going to die. If you drink the wrong water, you're going to die. What about the air? Well, if you breathe the wrong air, you're going to die. That's what COVID is, right? Breathing the wrong air. So that's a problem. Also, old people die. They die all the time. Everyone dies. Everyone. 100%. You know what the mortality rate is? 100%. That's what it is. Everyone dies. And that's where we're at. And it takes us some time. We tried to stop it. I think we, and I'm talking about us as a species, we tried. It didn't work as well as it should have. Now we got to move on. It's too late to not learn the hard way. We didn't do a good enough job, and we're past it now. So you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube. What are you doing? What are you trying to, you can't unkill people. It's already happened. You can't undo the shitty response. It happened. And now at this point, we haven't seen enough damage. We haven't seen enough death to scare us. That's why, a lot of people looked at Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, and said, that was a really big moment, I think. When he survived and came out and was extremely serious about it, I think it woke up a lot of people in his party to, oh shit, this stuff is real. And he was really diligent about it and everything, but just the idea of how that experience influenced him, changed his perspective on the whole thing, is not to be undersold. What happens if somebody like Ben Shapiro gets COVID-19 and dies? You know what happens? It can't be some rando conservative. It's got to be a really major conservative, somebody who's bordering on saying that the disease is fake and that the government is trying to seize control of people's lives. Somebody who's in that realm, who's really famous. Or if Trump got it, if Trump got it and died, like that would be a really big, then people would get their shit together. It's not the 60,000, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000. A million people could die, and you are not going to change people's opinions on this. I mean, you have to understand where their mentality is at this point. It doesn't affect me, therefore it's not real. Therefore, you need to stop complaining, get your shit together, and go out and do your job. Quit being lazy. That's their whole mentality. Quit being lazy. It's your fault. Get your shit together. That's their whole mentality. And so until one of those people dies who's saying that, and I hate to put it in those terms, but let's just look at the context clues of history. Unless we didn't stop a madman from murdering 30 million people. Like we weren't prepared for that. And guess what? If somebody wanted to do that now, if Kim Jong-un started just killing people in North Korea, what would we do about it? What would we do? Attack him? Get on boats and go over there? Or on ships or whatever? Nuclear weapon? What are we talking about? What happens the next time? That's the question everybody's asking, because unfortunately, these things, I should say unfortunately, they happen more than once. Fortunately, though, it's a long period of time in between these things that happen, and they're random. Mass genocide has happened all over the planet. It has happened in a number of different ways. We've seen populations get wiped out in in the time of human civilization. We've seen massive populations get wiped out by disease. And in this continent, Native Americans got wiped out by chickenpox in huge numbers. Obviously the Spanish influenza back at the end of World War I was a big problem. People died and then we moved on. That's how it works. Remember that scene in Breaking Bad where Walter White is talking to the gymnasium of kids about the plane crash? And he's like, look, this is only the 55th worst air disaster in history. And he starts listing off all these other worst disasters. And he says, look, this is what people do. We move on. We're sad. It sucks. And then we move on. And that's what's happening right now. We're moving on. And people are having a really hard time with it. And people are going to have a really hard time with and have a lot of revisionist history about the country and the world opening back up, and then a second wave happening, and then it gets a lot worse. If a second wave happens, the same questions and the same problems, and we're going to have the same political arguments with one another, and it's not going to be about the thing. It's going to be about the fact that red team, blue team. That's what it's going to be about. Square peg, round hole. I say this all the time. Square peg, round hole. That's our problem. We have to get beyond that. This is something that you're trained. Square peg, round hole is a perfect way to describe this, because kids, when you're really, really little, you don't understand spatial awareness. You don't understand shapes, really. So it's training you to understand that certain shapes fit certain shapes, right? That there's continuity there, that an absence of space and then a presence of space within the same shape, you can fit it through, right? That's what we're teaching kids. And yet our entire political process is a 200-year long square peg round hole, like, force fuck. Like, that's what it is. It's that for 200 years, and then us like, yeah, all right, well, eventually the hole and the shape will be the same. I don't know what it's going to look like at that point, but it will be the same. Eventually it'll go through. Just keep doing it. Just keep trying. It'll go through. And that's how we solve problems in American politics. We got to fix that. We have to fix that, and it's not going to happen anytime soon because you're at a point where you've got to push it all the way until you got to be willing to go further than your opponent. And Republicans are always willing to go further than Democrats, always, until recently, in which the Democrats have agreed or have tried to go further, and they've tried to match that willingness to do whatever it takes to win. And it's really hurt their party. It's made them look like hypocrites, and they don't know how to handle that, I think. And then also too, just their response in general. I don't know why this works this way, but it just seems like whoever the Republicans picked, you're like, man, that's just awful. It's a terrible, terrible. Why would anybody think that that person is good at running things? And then somehow, almost, I would say, outside of Clinton and outside of Obama, I mean, certainly my entire life. Although, I mean, Clinton and Obama, that's 16 years. That's half my life. The other half has been a little bit of Reagan, which I don't remember, George H., and then George W., and then Trump. Those have been the leaders of my life, you know. But generally speaking, I feel like outside of just the president, um, I mean, Republicans are way better at it, way better. And then this is how it works almost every time. Is you'll the president represents the whole party in many ways, but if you're a Republican, that's not true. You know, the party ends up being represented by a lot of different people, almost always. You know, I think, except for Reagan, I think except for him, usually it's been kind of a big tent, so to speak. So you get a lot of different representatives. But I just think that's where we're at right now. Like, okay, Republicans are willing to go further than you. How far are they willing to go? Pretty much all the way up to death. They will destroy the country before they let you win, and that's how they get their way. Because that's their goal, anyways, is to destroy the infrastructure of government. So outside of the military, which is weird because if you look at dictatorships, really the only thing that they need is a military, and then they just get to do whatever they want. Which that's what bothers me about Republicans is that they just seem to really, really, really want a dictatorship. They want it to be no laws except for the rule of the law of one, whoever's at the top, and then that person gets to call the shots. Seems like it. Seems like that's what they want. That's what the last year, 4 years, seems to have been like in many ways, in many respects. Because eventually, what you've seen is that Trump's willing to go further than anybody else in the Republican Party because he does he win. That's his whole thing, right? Win, win, win. I'm going to win because I'm going to outlast you. I'm willing to do things and say things that you're not willing to do. And guess what? He's right. So that willingness has gotten him all the way to the White House. And what happens in the Republican Party is that if you're that, you win. You're the leader. That's not how it works in the Democratic Party. In the Democratic Party, it's whatever the party wants, and whatever the party wants is what you're going to get, and they're going to finagle it and corrupt it and do whatever it takes to get the stupid idiot president that they want. And the last two times, that's been Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, two losers. So I think that's where we're at. So I'm sure if you're a Republican, you feel really good about that. If you're a Democrat, you think the world is coming to an end. And if you're like me, you're just sick and tired of it. Um, let's start something new. All right, so it looks like one person has been watching this entire time. So I hope you enjoyed it, whoever you are. Thank you very much. That's it for me today. Talk for an hour about nothing. We'll do it again on Monday. We've got some good guests next week. We've got Sean Carroll, who's an astrophysicist, coming on. Astrophysicist, sorry, no, theoretical physicist. He is he's awesome. I've read both two of his books. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts, numerous lectures he's got on YouTube. He's an extremely bright individual, and I'm very excited to talk to him about science. Also next week, Robert Lawrence Kuhn is coming on from Closer to Truth. I know a lot of people have probably seen him on public PBS, and I'm guessing if you haven't, you should go check out his YouTube channel, Closer to Truth. One of the great searchers in human culture right now, I would say. I think that what he's doing and what Sam Harris is doing and what a lot of people are doing in terms of trying to create a comfortable place for people like myself to search spiritual questions is really really important. So we're going to talk with him next week as well. And please, by all means, please fucking share this with somebody because I'm just not good. I'm not good at just talking about myself on social media. Like I feel like I said at the beginning, I was kind of raised to believe that if you're good, then people will just notice it and then it will happen. Whatever you want to happen. So it's hard for me to promote myself. So help me out. I'm asking you to help me promote the show if you think that if you've enjoyed it. I like to have conversations. So let's try to have conversations for more people. The more people that are involved, the more the content of the show is going to reflect the variety of views that we all have. So that's it. See you next week.